Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a few tracks from Peter. We've got a few tracks from Peter. If we switch over to here, we have 3 songs. Apparently Peter is a lyricist and now doing a collaboration with several producers and songwriters in the German industrial metal genre, which is cool. I do like my metal. We're going to listen through each of these tracks from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Starting with the Besserung, the improvement, let's go. Great crescendo there.
Missbrauch, falsche Schnitte, so beginnen stets Fortschritte mit Bohrgeräten, Hammern, Messern, nicht nur heilen, sondern bessern. Ich hab dafür genau den Plan, durchbohr den Kopf, so trägst du dann ein zweites Arschloch auf der Stirn und presst daraus ein Häufchen Hirn. Halt doch still, empfang den Segen, Erlösung von Migräne. Ja, und bitte sei so nett zu fegen, deine schöne Schwäne.
I love it. It sounds commercial grade.
Es lieber anders wie ich drehe die Anatomie, mach aus dem Mund ein Loch zum Scheißen und aus dem Arsch ein Maul zum Beißen. Verstopfung, Krämpfe, Darmträgheit, gedreht sind eine Kleinigkeit, befreit dich fast von jeder Stauung, die rückwärtige Verdauung. Hock dich hin, ich bin der Fachmann, so Aufwärtsfresser. Alles, was ein Schluckmund kann ein Saugasch besser.
Great sense of flow with the chord no grooves.
Sich einen Handstand machen, das bringt dich zum scheiß schmeckenden Lachen, denn der Hals leert leicht die Last, wenn du kopfstehend Stuhlgang hast. Gefällt's dir nicht, den Kot zu kauen? Du kannst ja duftender verdauen. Der Stuhl besteigt die Därme doch, er quetscht sich aus dem Nasenloch. Hock dich hin, ich bin der Fachmann, so Aufwärtsfresser. Alles, was ein Schluckmund kann ein Saugasch besser. Viel besser.
Very used to the vibrato by there on the guitars. It heavily, I know this is probably really reductive and potentially not what people would want to hear. It really reminds me of Rammstein. I haven't listened to enough industrial metal to differentiate the nuances, but there's something about it, especially with the vocal parts when they get into those kind of groupish kind of like harmonies there. It's just, and we've got the lyrics here for the improvement. Misdeed, malpractice, abortive incisions. That's how progress always begins. Thank you, by the way, for the translations. I appreciate it. Wow, a second asshole in your forehead to shit out a little lump of brain. It's pretty visceral, isn't it? It's really visceral. The wordplay, I'll have you do a handstand, that'll give you a shit-eating grin, because the throat easily unloads its burden when you defecate standing on your head. Just so, oh man. So this was, yeah, the Besserung, the improvement. It's about physical, like, surgery and twisting the way people defecate and like shitting out their nose, and it's pretty violent stuff. It's some of the most grotesque stuff I think I've reviewed. I think from a creativity standpoint, that's actually kind of interesting. I mean, people watch really wild shit and horror movies and all sorts of stuff, so there'll definitely be an audience for this kind of thing. It is very incredibly creative. Not for everyone, but that's not the point. You know, music doesn't have to be for everyone. The vocals, again, just the husky kind of like the grit to it. Some of the fry at the start of the choruses, the group kind of chants, and the background vocals, and the way we express ourselves differently. Just some parts are just sighing or breathing. It's so incredibly charismatic and expressive. It's wonderful how we craft these really minimalist vocal melodies that we repeat the sequences with in a way that is satisfying. We create a set characterization for each part, and it's incredibly effective. It's very easy to go from one part to another. Instrumentally, at 3 minutes 15, I feel like the combination of different guitars, bass, drums, and the kind of fluttery synths that we have, those kind of, they're effortlessly effective. I think that the way we go between those verses and choruses is very slick. We have occasional points where we can just appreciate the instrumental backing as well. But it's great to listen to whether you have the vocals involved or not. The individual instruments, you know, typically it's a chord note groove with the drums, but we do have some snare patterns there, some fills and some transfers. I think it's really tight with the way things are played and performed, and there's a great sort of synergy with how the bass and the drums come together. The bass typically working with the chord note accents of the drum kit, whilst also sort of compromising with the guitar parts and the rhythm section. Typically bluesy pentatonic or power chordal elements there, with some octave chords or some harmonies in the upper register there just for a bit of color, but nothing too bright. And the synths there, a bit of frenetic energy in those end verse parts, or those bridge transfers there that are half the length of chorus, because we had like verses and bridges and then chorus, and it was just effortless how it went from one to the other. It was very smooth. But yeah, just that bit of tension before the release. It's still heavy. It's a very intense. The music is nowhere near as visceral in its affectation to the lyrics, in my opinion. But I think the combination of it makes, I think almost the music balances out the vocals, and you do find a weird equilibrium there. I think it's really, the production is really high quality. I like the way things are leveled and compressed light and recorded, and no issues there. We'll talk about them more at the end, but it's a really great start. Well done. Now we do actually have a lyric video for the second track, Fire for Effect, so let's do that as well.
Harte Hülsen, weiche Kerne, kleine Grüße aus der Ferne.
Bit of distortion on those vocals.
Hundertfach und
Nice.
zerreißen nach und nach. Ein Kupfermantel, Spitzgeschoss, der Schlüssel für das Schädelschloss. Dringt er glatt durch die Umhüllung, leert er dann die Schädelfüllung. So gefüllte Splitterminen stören immer Laufroutinen, weil der Mensch nicht gerne geht, wenn er nur auf Stützen steht.
Wow. That was a hell of an entrance. And how those repeats go on the side, stereo pannings are really good.
Von einer Batterie vermisst
Are we adjusting the tempo here? Oh, that's a bit trippy.
21 Meter Flammenspucker, vollgetankt mit Flüssigzucker. Dank der Feuer anriss man Menschenbraten essen kann.
Is it a soprano in the background or a synth? I mean, that was incredibly intense as well. We're 2 for 2 at the moment. So we've got lyrics again here. Fire for effect. Hard shells, soft cores, little greetings from afar that fly by the 100. I assume this is about weapons. Fragmentation mines filled with shot always disrupt walking routines because people don't like to walk standing only on stumps. 1,000-kilo long-range rockets sometimes land uninvited in the middle of a wedding group and turn them into wedding soup. Bombardment from a battery blends the anatomy. A liter of shit sprays from the forehead, a liter of brain from the ass. A 20-meter flamethrower topped off with liquid sugar so the flamethrower man can eat a human roast. Okay, so I mean, this track, clearly it's about warfare and firing weapons at each other. And we've got flamethrowers and mines and missiles and people not wanting to walk on stumps. It's clearly incredibly visceral imagery invoked by the lyrics. I think that the storytelling is really... There's like a dark sense of humor to it, but like it's also really effective. It's intense and it kicks you in the teeth a bit, and it's kind of what you want for a track because you want to care about what you're reading and what you're listening to. And I imagine that hearing it in real time, if you've got like German as a native language, you know, as a native listener, you'd probably have a hell of a experience with this. It'd probably be even like more kind of like overwhelming. The vocals in this are handled well. We had a similar style to the previous track there. There was some interesting harmonized vocals with some almost sort of synthy stuff going on in some of the bridge sections there that I think it was great to have that as a mid to upper layer. They're just a bit of color in the track. We did have other synths, more kind of stabby ones there that pierced the mix. And they made the most of the absence of that guitar, bass, and drums that came in those hooks and absolutely just kind of like, it was so well designed EQ wise. Just the sub bass there, whatever they were doing was just clipping really nicely. And even with these headphones, that's probably one of the nicest like drops I've heard in these headphones. I've got like these Sony ones. They're really unforgiving with most mixes, and this one, yeah, smashed it. Just the way it came in on the sides, like the vocals as well. It's like the effects on the vocals, like the main kind of fire part, douche, 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 it goes on the side like that and surrounds you in the headphones. It's enthralling. It's just great sound design. You had like this kind of weird, interesting synthy, soprano-ish thing going on in the background there with that last chorus, which was a nice little bit of development. If that wasn't there before, it might have been, but I especially noticed it there. And it's like we have similar affectations of like the bass drum and guitars to this, but we're adding different amounts of synths here. And we had like that bit in the middle there where things kind of came down and they delayed or reverberated and looped, and it became this kind of soup of sounds there, and the vocals came in and we sort of built ourselves back up from that, and just fantastic dynamic range. Ultimately, there's a lot to appreciate about this track too, and I think that they handled it really efficiently. It's just really well-made music that even if you're not a massive fan of what the lyrics are talking about, you've still got to appreciate the quality of what we've got in front of us. We got track number 3, titled Körperzier Body Ornament. Going between some majors in there. Oh. Chromatics.
Körperzier. Sie hängen schlaff aus meinem Bauch, befestigt wie ein Gartenschlauch. Ich wickel's auf, so ist mein Brauch, vom Tanzen und vom Kacken auf.
Oh, that tension with those chords at the end, dude. Short little guitar solo, nice and tasteful. Okay, that was fantastic. So that was Körperzier. Fantastic. Like, it's another solid track. It's basically 3 for 3 at this point. So this is Body Ornament. Body Ornament. The long, soft intestines, which I carefully cut out, I wear like a silk scarf, donned in the changing room. A woman looks at them and with envy. They'd go well with a dress, but I don't care. I like the guts. I won't cut them off. I'm sorry. They don't come from an animal, not from pig or a bull. They're a part of me, my fine body ornament. Before dancing and before pooping too. What? Carve the belly meat, bloat the bowels, sew together the large and small intestines. It's so a lot. It's so much. Just before going to the overall conclusion, body ornament, like about wearing our small intestines or something like that, and like wearing like a scarf, someone being jealous of the fact that we have that kind of scarf, and you saying, no, this is, I mean, I'm not sure if it's figurative or not. I'm assuming the person writing this didn't cut out the lower intestines. That you can see someone's done that to themselves, they mutilated themselves like that, and then they're like, oh, can I have that too? But even more than that, I know this person is just wanting to go out and dance, and maybe it's about like kind of cutting themselves up in order to go and have fun or something like that, how we destroy ourselves in order to get to certain positions, only fixing ourselves for when it's really necessary for the stuff we really want to do or for when we need to poop. Yeah, man, it's been a wild time with this track. A few of the highlights, you know, are that I appreciated the use of like the choir vocals and the chorus sections, that upper register there, almost a sense of a great glow to it. And we also had some sort of mid-rangey kind of synth patter stuff like strings there that just added a bit of extra brightness in that mid-range to the guitars and the bass, drums, all the wonderful stuff going on there, hook there. There's a sense of glory to the way that we sung in certain elements there. There were kind of growly, gritty bits, but we also rose into our upper chest voice and we belted as well. And it was really, it was really fantastic. There was a guitar solo as well that I really appreciated in that later stage there. It was fantastic that it was short, just a little bit of extra kind of spiciness from an alternative lead. The little kind of uncomfortable chord that we had before each chorus section that resolved to a minor but was still really satisfying, even though I suppose if you were listening, it added a sense of really kind of messed up glory to the fact that we were so proud of our body ornament there. It's sort of like otherworldly, like it makes you feel a bit incredulous listening to it, but that's creativity. And that imagination is important with music. It needs to constantly evolve. I think, like, aside from a few extra instruments, a lot of the vocal style was the same. A lot of the guitar, bass, drum parts were approached in a way which was consistent. There was kind of a bluesy, almost like No More Tears-ish kind of vibe with the rhythm parts at the start of the track, going to like almost a majorish kind of feel there before going to like the minor elements of the blues scale. I think we understand enough about the fundamentals of music theory and composition to be able to get away with doing all this kind of fun, kind of wacky chromatic stuff. But we're going to talk about these tracks more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Peter and the producers and collaborators that they worked with. These three tracks titled Die Besserung, The Improvement, Fire for Effect, and Körperzier, Body Ornament. I've spoken about each of these three tracks in their respective individual mini-conclusions. My overall thoughts on these songs being from the improvement, body modification, so that they can literally talk shit, Fire for Effect, the effect of war on people, turning people like wedding parties into wedding soup, Körperzier, which is about cutting out your intestines and wearing them as a scarf, with a bit more people being jealous of that. It's wild, man. This is some incredibly ambitious, surrealist subject matter that I think that makes sense, I suppose, for the genre. I'm just not as familiar with the subject matter on a lot of industrial tracks to really sort of know if this is like normal or not. But I don't care either way, in the sense that I just think it's cool that we're trying different stories. I'm not like a oh, everything needs to be PG oriented kind of person anyways. I think the vocals, whether they are head, chest, voice, cleans, a bit of vocal fry, some harmonies, the synthy kind of stuff happening in the second track there, where you had like 4 voices or something, just the breathing or the kind of like sighing there. Like we had also even some spoken parts there. It was just so wonderful, and the wide variety of different expressions we had here. Whoever was doing the vocals in these tracks was incredible at what they do, and they just added a sense of theater and drama to it that I think makes sense with the stories and the subject matter. We had great vocal technique, came up with compelling vocal melodies and harmonies that made sense with the backing arrangements, and it was incredibly satisfying all around. The tracks themselves were between 3 and 4 minutes, which is exactly the length you want in these day and age. Less than 3 minutes, sometimes you're missing important context. More than 4 minutes, you start to lose people, especially if there isn't enough differentiation within the composition. So ultimately, like the way they were structured with various verse, bridge, and choruses with occasional interludes or little solo sections or just instrumental intros or outros, was fantastic. They had distinct elements there. There were different progressions or bass lines per part for the most part. There we had some melodic oriented bits, some more kind of like rhythm oriented bits, harmony oriented bits, and the guitars, bass, and drums being the main focal point, with there being lots of different synth sounds, some string pad thingies, as well as some choirs and other elements there, was just so much to appreciate. I'll talk about a few other things I really enjoyed here personally. The drums, just with how solid they are. A lot of quarter notes with some 8th and 16th note variations, some interesting fill transitions, but predominantly the drums sort of rolliness was either to pocket or it was just groove. It was just groove. You know, there were some moments where they had their time to shine, but that was support. The same with the bass player. Just incredibly kind of prominent in that low end there, really thick and full, and had a great sense of connection to what the drummer was doing, fully supportive of what the guitars were doing, whether they were power chords or octaves or lead parts or like dual harmonies. Whatever we had happened there was just fantastic. The guitars exploring the fretboard, even having again a bit of a solo section a bit later on there in that upper range, and just being really satisfying to listen to. The synth pads that we had, either being sort of more sort of chorish melodies or little sequences on the side like the first track, those kind of faster ones, or you had pads like in the third track there. There were little kind of bits around the stereo field, things moved around, they weren't in the same place. The track felt live because the music was surrounding you in the headphones. And then of course again you had like, there were probably instruments I missed. It's just you didn't have a massively complicated arrangement for any of these tracks. It's clearly the performance itself across the board, which is really, really important here. It's really well handled. I should also note, it's at least 50% the production as well, because the production in these three tracks was absolutely superb. But I should note that the performance and the songwriting here was invigorating, great to listen to. I really enjoyed my time with it. And again, I feel like the only way I could have possibly improved the experience was if I'd understand the language natively, and therefore I could have the full effect of everything at once. But I'm glad I had the lyrics. Thank you to Peter for that. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering. I mean, the themes, the music sounded like it was creating an atmosphere for someone on stage to talk about those things. It didn't necessarily feel like the music was trying to deliberately address what the lyrics were talking about. It's just more that it's trying to provide an environment, an atmosphere which that stuff can be discussed. So I feel that's my approach on it. Usually with themes, I'm a bit more kind of discontent if there isn't a connection, but everything was so well handled within this that it can only be deliberate. So I'm happy with what's been put forward here. The studio recording, mixing and mastering with the combination again of the vocals, the guitar, bass, drums, synths and everything else, things were well leveled and mixed. There were no weird resonant frequencies. There was a nice amount of balance between the sub bass there, just that oomph, especially coming into some quiet, but there was dynamic range within these tracks. And it just comes in, sort of surrounds you in the headphones, kicks in, drums nicely side-chaining stuff, music surrounding you in the headphones, great use of the stereo field. It was loud, nice and loud, without pumping. It wasn't done badly, it wasn't distorting, there weren't any sort of rookie mistakes. These are just 3 really well-written and performed songs, and I wish them the best of luck. Because this is my review of these tracks, Die Besserung, Fire for Effect, and Körperzier, and hopefully you enjoyed them. If you did, please go check out their various social medias, and I'm sure this will be on all digital streaming platforms or whatever at some point, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.